What's up, everybody? You're listening to The Fringe live on 103.7 WPWL, Pauling Public Radio, just adjusting the levels here, live on the air. I am Mike Berquist, the host of this show, broadcasting directly from the Rush Studios in downtown Pauling, New York. I'm just going to preface this show by saying I am extremely out of it today. I went to bed probably around 1:30. Woke up around 5 because the dog required attention, like breakfast and having to go out and all that nonsense. So I've been up since about 5 a.m. running on like 3.5 hours of sleep. So I'm already feeling a little loopy, kind of a little off. So this is going to be an interesting one to see, especially because I'm pouring an energy drink into my head right now also. Just, moving things forward. So let's start the show the usual way. Happy birthday, rest in peace. This is also probably going to be the first episode of The Fringe that I podcast. Hopefully going to get that out sometime this week. Got to find a service, the whole thing. It doesn't matter. I'll handle that off the air. So the way we start the show, a happy birthday and a rest in peace from this day in history. Today, the recording of this is Sunday, July 29th. So our birthday today is Alexis de Tocqueville. Now, Alexis de Tocqueville was let's just read Wikipedia's little summary here. They usually get it a lot more concise than I can. French diplomat, political scientist, and historian. Best known for his works Democracy in America and the Old Regime and the Revolution. He analyzed the improved living standards and social conditions of individuals, as well as their relationship to the market and state in Western societies. So this guy was, a lot of his stuff led up to the French Revolution, though he didn't agree necessarily with the French Revolution. But there was a really interesting thing in here that I was reading yesterday. I'm just going to read this pretty much verbatim from Wikipedia because I think it sums it up. He spoke or wrote a lot about a variety of different things, and it's all sort of social science and political science and sort of the relationship between the two. But he talks about the idea of majority rule and how it leads to mediocrity, which I think is really, really interesting. And I think it's still extremely relevant because, our systems haven't changed since the late 1700s. So it says here, beyond the eradication of old world aristocracy, ordinary Americans also refused to defer to those possessing, as Tocqueville put it, superior talent and intelligence, and these natural elites could not enjoy much share in political power as a result. Ordinary Americans enjoyed too much power and claimed too great a voice in the public sphere to defer to intellectual superiors. This culture promoted a relatively pronounced equality, Tocqueville argued, but the same mores and opinions that ensured such equality also promoted mediocrity. Those who possessed true virtue and talent were left with limited choices. Tocqueville said that those with the most education and intelligence were left with two choices. They could join limited intellectual circles to explore the weighty and complex problems facing society, or they could use their superior talents to amass vast fortunes in the private sector. Tocqueville wrote that he did not know of any country where there was less independence of mind and true freedom of discussion than in America. He blamed the omnipotence of a majority rule as a chief factor in stifling thinking. The majority is enclosed thought within a formidable fence. A writer is free inside that area, but woe to the man who goes beyond it. Not that he stands in fear of an inquisition, but he must face all kinds of unpleasantness in everyday persecution. A career in politics is closed to him, for he has offended the only power that holds the keys. In contrast to previous political thinkers, Tocqueville argued that a serious problem in political life was not that people were too strong, but that people were too weak and felt powerless as the danger is that people felt swept up in something that they could not control, according to, some guy named Kaplan's interpretation of Tocqueville. But so this is a guy with some really advanced ideas and some really interesting ideas. Those are always fascinating to read about, sort of the way that psychology plays a role with the political science kind of stuff. Just, I don't know, the way that the everyday average person interacts with the government is always, in my opinion, pretty interesting. Don't worry, that's not really going to be the topic of today's show. I don't know why I said not going to be really the topic. It's not at all the topic. So happy birthday, Alexis de Tocqueville. You had a lot of very, very interesting ideas and very relevant now, especially with the Trump administration and sort of the way that people are looking at the election and the way that elections are held in this country. And they're really taking a hard look at it for the first time in, I don't even know how long, before I was born, I'm sure, which was 92. So, yeah, just really interesting stuff. I thought it was pretty relevant. So happy birthday, Alexis de Tocqueville. Now, somebody that's a little more, I guess, palatable to the I don't know, whatever. It's Vincent van Gogh is what I'm trying to say. He's a pretty well-known figure. Vincent van Gogh, painter, cut his ear off, shot himself. Though there was a really interesting, not a documentary. I think it was like not 60 Minutes, but one of those nighttime programs that's sort of like investigative journalism or so they say. There was one where, I don't remember who it was, but they were re-examining the circumstances surrounding Vincent van Gogh's death. And they've convinced me that he did not commit suicide, which is the general theory on how he died, because he was alone when he did it, and it was not a great. I gotta figure out how to say this because you don't qualify suicides by how great they were, but basically he shot himself in the chest, which was not the norm. I would say, or I'd say that is not the norm to shoot yourself in the chest because that's typically not an instantaneous death. But anyways, that was one of the parts that was evidence for Van Gogh not committing suicide, that he had been shot by kids playing with a gun, and instead of ruining their lives and everything, and he was so miserably depressed anyways, he just because he didn't die right away. He shot himself in the chest in the field and then dragged himself all the way back to his home and then lived longer than that and then died. And the idea is that it was not a suicide. It was an accidental shooting, but he just sort of accepted, I guess, the blame for it because I guess he didn't want to drag anybody else down. And they were kind of, I mean, in his opinion, doing him a favor. So, but the point being, rest in peace, Vincent van Gogh, not a real exploratory sort of dialogue on how he died. So yeah. Now I'm going to play a song. Now, Vincent van Gogh, I don't know many songs about Vincent van Gogh. I know one very popular song by Don McLean. A lot of people think it's called Starry, Starry Night, but it's actually called Vincent, and it's a beautiful song. But I'm not going to play that song right now. Without further ado, here's Palisades Park by Freddie Cannon. That was a quick one. Palisades Park by Freddie Cannon, originally written by Chuck Barris of game show fame, probably most notably The Gong Show, because he actually hosted that one. And by the way, if anybody's never seen The Gong Show from the 1970s, please do yourself a favor and go on YouTube. They have a lot of the full episodes on YouTube, and that show is just a delight. So, yeah, that was Palisades Park. I used to work at a crappy little store in the town I grew up in. It was called Value Village. It's still there. From what I understand, they're probably going out of business soon, and rightfully so. Never a well-run establishment, always very weird. A lot of the stuff didn't make any kind of sense at all. I have no idea how they turned a profit ever in that store. I worked there for like 3 years when I was in high school, up until I was set to go to college, which lasted, that's a story for another time, college. I'll get into that another day. Or maybe later in the show, if it strikes my fancy, because the news is pretty miserable today, so I don't know how much time I want to spend on that. I might just tell stories and stuff. So anyways, I worked at this crappy store, Value Village, and I guess it's real. The only reason it stayed open so long is because you had to walk through it to get to the local movie theater, which is like the entrance was in the back of the store. Very bizarre, and their little setup between the companies, the store company and the movie theater company, because they were not owned by the same people, so they had an arrangement. I don't know. It was a very, very, very odd place to work, but I loved it. I really did love working there. Before they installed security cameras, not that I was doing anything unscrupulous, but it was just like, if you just wanted to like hang out and talk with your fellow employees, having no cameras was a boon. You could get away with a lot of stuff like that. I was actually one of the only employees that did not steal from the company. So I do pride myself on that a little bit. But I'm going off on all these crazy tangents because I have so many memories of Value Village, but this particular one, Palisades Park used to play on the store playlist, and the store playlist was, God, it couldn't have been more than 50 songs that were just on repeat. So if you worked, like, let's say a 9-hour shift, which was not unusual, you would hear the same songs like 2-3 times a day in your shift. So Palisades Park was one that was on there, and that was one of my favorites because a lot of the other stuff was just really terrible, top 40 nonsense from that time, like 2008, let's say. So really just a sort of musically cultural, or a musical wasteland, I guess, is what I'm trying to say, the 2008 year. So Palisades Park would come on, and before I was really familiar, actually, even after I was familiar with it, it still scared me. There's that part in the song where they're going down the roller coaster, and everyone starts screaming. Now, if you're working in a quasi-department store like Value Village was, and you're not fully paying attention to the music because you're mindlessly doing this task called facing, which I'll talk about in a little bit after this, but so you're just mindlessly going about the obsessive-compulsive tasks that have been set out for you for the day. You're not paying full attention to the music. So when the screaming started happening, it sounded like it was coming from the front of the store. So every time that song came on, it caused a little bit of panic because it sounded like someone had maybe pulled a gun in the front of the store, or it started attacking somebody, because it was just the sound of people screaming. And every time it happened, it panicked me for half a second before I realized what was happening. So that was the point I was trying to make. That took a really long time to get there. Like I said, for anybody who's a little late to joining us here, very out of it today. Little loopy, not doing my best thinking today. So it's good that I'm in front of a microphone unsupervised. That's a good thing. So, but yeah, let me just tell you what facing was, because I brought that up. Facing at Value Village, I'm sure this is the same in any kind of store like this, is you walk down the aisles and you look at the shelves, and if there are empty spaces in the shelves, or if there are things, like let's say there are 3 things on a shelf, one and then one behind it, right? People come up, they take the one in front. Maybe they take the second one also. So now you've got that third one, but it's all the way in the back. Facing is you go up and you pull the stuff up to the front so it looks like the shelf is full. And you would do that for hours. And then you would run out of things to do. So you would, I don't even remember at this point. I've blocked it out like some kind of awful childhood memory. But it would take a while. It was completely obsessive compulsive, extremely boring, and not really a substitute for work. So the fact that that business might be going out of business is not overly surprising. But anyways, let's get into the news a little bit. I've got Reddit news up, and I've got Google News up. Google News, their headlines, if we just want to take a glance at those before we take another quick break and then get more specific. Top headline says, Trump is willing to shut down the government over border security. Now, that is a pretty careless headline for a number of reasons. One, the president doesn't just shut down the government. That's not how that works. Let me just open this. New York Post, of course. The height of journalistic integrity here. They've got a photoshopped picture of Mark Zuckerberg with a black eye, which is just, that's not journalism. It's weird. This might be a tabloid, New York Post. But anyways, the president doesn't shut down the government. What happens is they would have to pass the budget, right? I believe. And now I'm kind of speaking out of my element a little bit, but I do know that this is not a one-man job, shutting down the government. And when the government shuts down, it's been shut down for far less than border security. So, I mean, it's a pretty misleading headline. It's not very accurate. It is absolutely 100% written that way to stir up the idiots. So we'll see what happens with that. There's another California fire, which is, it's not surprising. I'm seeing the word here, unbelievable, but it's not unbelievable. I think I said it last time I was on the air. That's a state that lights itself on fire twice a year. So when it lights on fire, there's really no real reason to be surprised. I mean, this one did something weird where it actually, like, the fire jumped a river into, like, a large area that wasn't expecting to be burned to the ground, but that happened. So it's sad that when these things happen, but it's not shocking. Like, you can predict that these things are going to happen pretty easily. So I guess what I'm trying to do is encourage everyone to just move out of California. I mean, what's really there anyways? Nice weather and some water? We've got that over on this side of the country, sans the giant fires. So we've got that. We've got CNN saying that 5 metrics suggest the Democrats are poised for big wins 100 days to the midterms. And as we all know, all political metrics are totally accurate. That's why nobody was surprised or crying or protesting when Donald Trump won the election. All right, here's the recommended stories for me that Google's given me. Let's see. Trump kicks off Sunday with flurry of tweets. That's not news. He kicks off every day with a flurry of tweets. So far, not good. 2 new Overwatch skins revealed. That's okay. I play Overwatch. That's pretty good. I don't understand this. Groove analysis. Frank Zappa's drummers with Ryan Brown. I guess they're analyzing Frank Zappa's drummers on Drum Magazine. That's not really relevant to me at all. I like Frank Zappa, but I don't subscribe to Drum Magazine. And then the last one they've recommended for me, Wu-Tang Clan teases anniversary tour, reveals new LP cover art and release date. Now that is for me, for sure. Big Wu-Tang Clan fan. Been a big Wu-Tang Clan fan for, I don't know, almost a decade now. Love that group. And I have something queued up I'm going to play in a little bit. But it's going to be the 25th anniversary of the Wu-Tang Clan. They just came out with an album. Let's see. Wu-Tang Clan and this is from hotnewhiphop.com. Wu-Tang Clan let their fans know a new project was on the way back in May of this year. At the time, it was said that the album was meant to celebrate their debut's anniversary. Since Enter the Wu-Tang 36 Chambers was released on November 9th, it could be assumed that the new LP would hit our ears in colder months, and it seems like Wu-Tang is giving us a gift earlier than expected. So, okay, they've done their new... I might have to get this on vinyl just for the cover. It's a... no way. Okay, so, I guess the LP is called Pearl Harbor? From Wu-Tang, the saga continues. Pre-sale next Wednesday, including a brand new remix of something. I don't know. But the cover it's like an old-timey newspaper, and it's called the Shaolin Global Times. And it says, Wu-Tang declares war, Pearl Harbor Deluxe Edition. Then the saga continues, their logo, and then all of the people featured on the tracks. So that's really exciting, man. And it is this sort of like faded, almost yellow kind of newspaper. That's really cool. That's really cool. I love the Wu-Tang Clan. You know what? Let's play some of that right now, and then we'll talk a little more specifically. I just found this just like moments before the show. It's Jizza the Genius and the Old Dirty Bastard freestyling. Rare, never-before-seen footage from 2015 from some show called Video Music Box, which I'm going to assume is sort of one of those local New York shows. Which, by the way, if you have access to any of those local New York City programs, even though they're pretty low budget, there's a lot of quality in those. So don't skip over like Channel 12 so quickly next time you're flipping through the channels. You'll find that's how I found Future Islands, was back in like 2007 maybe. I saw them on I think it was like NYC TV, like Channel 12, and the show was called Flavor Pill Fix. And it was just somebody with a camera going around all these little shows in like along the East Coast and stuff. And yeah, so I mean, you get some pretty cool stuff, like the thing I'm about to play right now, this 1991 freestyle in a bathroom that these the two of the founding members of the Wu-Tang Clan and cousins, I believe, doing this. And I can't believe that I listened to it twice. It's clean. This is a clean freestyle rap from two of the greatest Wu-Tang Clan members. So, here we go.
1, 2, 1, 2. This is how we do it from Brooklyn. Oh yeah, that sounds kind of funky. Ow! All right, break it down, then I start. Check it out. When I begin to wreck a hip-hop tune, the crowd reacts immediately, if not soon. I'm black and proud, I move the crowd, I raise from hell. Yo, my lyrics alone rock the bells of those who say that it's me, they want a scar. That's like George Burns without a cigar. Some come in the game and project the hard image, but they can't never get past the line of scrimmage, cause I'm on a defense with a tough sequence, and you lack the knowledge to understand a pretense. So just from not planning it right, you got sacked by a blitz of rhymes that were broken down in stacks. Therefore, the mic was hyped within your hand, got stripped and ripped while it slipped from its stand. Then what happened? You begin to cease to control it. You fumble, couldn't rumble, so then I stole it. How did you think you can make first down? If you were boxing, you wouldn't escape the first round. Save the ball. Don't even begin to waste time. Drop the mic before you lose faith in your rhyme and realize you were just weak from the start. You make demos, but really don't master the art. I know you know, deep down inside you can't flow, cause you're backwards. When I said red, just said go, but you should've stopped, because the red was the bloodshed. But you ignored the warning and you went ahead and tried me, G, by setting up a match, a fair one.
Oh, I cut that short by accident. I knew I was going to do that. I had to remind myself several times that was going to happen. And then it did. I searched for a different video while I was on that screen. So that was basically the end of it anyways. The guy was going to come in and stop him like any second. So, yeah, that was just a quick freestyle. Jizza the Genius and Old Dirty Bastard from the Wu-Tang Clan. Now, I would like to play maybe a full Wu-Tang Clan song, a clean one, of course. And, yeah, maybe we'll go with The Mystery of Chessbox and Radio Edit. That should be a good one. I've played it before on this show, I believe. You know what, let me just make sure it's absolutely a clean version before I do it. Or should we just throw caution to the wind? Pay attention, Ajit Pai. Earn your FCC check. Pay very close attention, everyone. I know I will be. Here's The Mystery Chessbox and Radio Edit by the Wu-Tang Clan. The Mystery of Chessbox and Wu-Tang Clan, that was a clean version. So congratulations, FCC. You've suppressed freedom of speech yet again. Your legacy is intact. It is really interesting, the complete lack of consistency in FCC guidelines, like what you can and can't say. Like, apparently dirty hoe is fine in lyrics, but you can't say, like, the S word. You know, it's, like, really an odd thing. You can, you know, he was rapping about smoking meth, which is fine, but, like, you can't use the F word. It's weird. There's zero consistency in what these rules are. It's like, it's one of the more arbitrary facets of government in this country is the FCC. And I understand that they serve kind of a purpose, but a lot of what they do is pretty outdated. Around the time when Lenny Bruce, when he was bearded and really kind of strung out on heroin, he would just go on stage and rant about the police arresting him for language. That's when that kind of stuff should have ended. And yet it survives to this day. So there you go. First Amendment, it's a lie. What can I tell you? So, yeah, Wu-Tang Clan, they're teasing their anniversary tour. I can't wait for this. I can't wait. And that's the one of the funnier things about hip-hop, I think, is like the idea of going to a hip-hop show is like a frightening idea. And that's based on, like, the ignorance associated with, like, being born into and growing up in the suburbs. Going to a rap concert is a frightening idea. And yet, if you ever look at, like, hip-hop concert footage, a lot of the people in the crowd are suburban white guys. Like, a lot. It's kind of funny how that happened. That's a lot of where the hip-hop mogul money comes from. Yeah, it's just weird. but good. But good. And I love the Wu-Tang Clan. That was definitely the, like, I guess, like, the soundtrack, so to speak, of summer 2010. It was a lot of Wu-Tang Clan. Yeah. I was just picturing it in my head. Me, my buddy Nick, who just got married this past week, and Max. And Max had this really crappy little white car, and I'm not good with, like, is brands the right thing, or makes or models or whatever? I don't know a lot about cars, so it was just a crappy little white car, and there was something wrong with a muffler, like it was like riddled with holes, or it was just, I don't know what it was, but the car made an enormous amount of noise whenever it was on, and he lived a few streets away from me, so sometimes on a quiet day, if he was going to swing by, pick me up, and then we would go meet our friend Nick, if he was in his driveway starting his car, I'd be like, oh, okay, Max is on his way. Like, I would be able to hear it from my own house. That's how loud that car could get. And then, of course, we would have to play the Wu-Tang Clan really loud in the car because the car, made that much noise. Inside, it was almost deafening. So, and then at some point, I think, like, a rat maybe died in it somewhere, and they couldn't find it, so the car smelled. That car really was put out of its misery, I think. After a little while, probably shortly after that summer. But yeah, good times is basically what I'm saying. So let's get back into the show here. I've got Google News up here. There's this weird thing now. I was thinking about this before and how I could phrase this, because there's definitely a joke there, but I don't know how appropriate it is for the air. But I feel like in this day and age, we could play a new game called Guess the Racial Slur that this famous person used, because that seems to be happening all the time now, which is not okay. It's really strange. And Sean Spicer is the former, I guess he would be press secretary for Trump. He was at a book signing event, which apparently got heated, and he used a racial slur, which is always a good move when you're angry, is to just, harshly insult a large group of people that probably had nothing to do with anything you're angry about. Typically a good move for your image and your career, as, Roseanne Barr can attest to such things. She's on top of the world, right? I haven't checked in on her in a while. But let's see. Wow, here's the article. This is from usatoday.com. Sean Spicer's hotly anticipated book signing took a turn for the worse Friday when the former Trump administration press secretary was accused of using a racial slur toward a black classmate during his high school years. That's odd that would come up during your book signing. Let's see. The ex-communications director was at a book signing in Middletown, Rhode Island for his recent release of The Briefing about his time with President Donald Trump. At the signing, Alex Lombard, a resident of Cambridge, Massachusetts, approached him. Excuse me. Lombard told Spicer they attended the Portsmouth Abbey School together, a Catholic prep school in Rhode Island. Which, by the way, that just sounds like a hotbed of racial insensitivity right from the get-go. A Catholic prep school in Rhode Island. Let's see. After Spicer said hello to Lombard and confirmed that he boxed in school, Lombard charged Spicer with calling him the N-word before one of their fights, according to a video from the Newport Daily News. Lombard was then escorted away by a security guard. So, a publicist told the Associated Press that Spicer was taken aback by the outrageous claim. In the video, other attendees at the event can be heard saying, "You should be arrested immediately and get out of here," in response to Lombard's allegations. Lombard can also be heard threatening to fight Spicer in the video as he left the store. I was 14. I was a scared kid then, Sean. I'm not scared to fight you now, Lombard said. Well, it's too bad for Lombard because fighting stops being like a thing that adults do around the age of 14. If you're still fighting people just in the streets after the age of 14, there's something wrong there with you, probably. So, let's see. Supporters and critics of Trump's administration also clashed at the signing. A few protesters gathered outside of the store during the event with signs calling Spicer a liar. Beth Murphy Ward, one of the demonstrators, explained why she came to the store to protest. This is a bookstore. Well, that's a strong start to your argument, lady. Let's see how you finish it. There is something in that bookstore that Sean does not have. The books have spines. Sean does not, she said. Wow, how profound. I'd like to see how long it took her to write that down. I'd like to see all the rough drafts, all the lines she had crossed out and replaced, and, oh, this word doesn't fit here. Oh, I'll really get him with this spines comment. Good for you. I don't even remember her name. I said it like a minute ago. Another woman can be seen walking by Ward in the video saying, "You're just a liar yourself." Esme Webb Hines, another protester, said in the video she was disgusted by the Trump administration. The lying that's taking place in this administration, telling us not to trust our eyes, our ears, our own critical thinking, to just go along with what other blanked PR spin they make up every day and change it the next day. I don't know what she's saying. Spicer was scheduled to have another book signing in Massachusetts on Saturday, but the event was canceled due to the political climate, according to the AP. So, let me read this real quick. Where is it? My political disclaimer. The views and opinions expressed on this program, The Fringe, or by its host, me, Mike Berquist, do not necessarily reflect the views, opinions, or policies of Pauling Public Radio. Now, let's dive into this. If you're disgusted about the way that people conduct themselves and you disagree with what they're saying, the solution is not to silence the thing you don't agree with your quote-unquote protesting, which is more or less just disrupting, again, the First Amendment. The right to gather peacefully, the right to, and I know that they claim they're gathering peacefully, but when you approach the man and say you're going to fight him and you just disrupt the event, that's not really protesting. That's really stamping your feet because you didn't get your way a year and a half ago. It's time to grow up and get over it. But I know I'm just sort of speaking into the wind. The left doesn't want to listen. They're not going to be happy until there's until they've completely alienated everyone with their tireless, often incorrect rhetoric, which is only going to get them 4 more years of Donald Trump. That's the funny part that the liberals don't seem to understand with these things is the more you complain and the more you condescend and the more you attack your political enemies, the more they're going to vote just to spite you. It's not even politics anymore. It's just spite versus spite. And that's an issue. And those kinds of things are very evident in situations like this. Sean Spicer's trying to sell his dumb book. Who cares? It's a stupid book. You don't have to buy it. Again, depend on the market. The market sorts these things out. If you disagree with Spicer, don't buy his book. He won't get money from the book. He won't make a living off the book. There you go. Problem solved. This is not going to go on to be a great moment in American history, your protest or his book. This really is a pick your battles kind of moment. But of course, every single anything is a battle in this day and age because full-grown adults can't come to terms with the idea that things didn't go their way, which is disgusting. It's disgusting. And so when they disrupt things like this, when they disrupt speeches that people give, you don't have to agree with what the person's saying, but you definitely do not have the right to silence them because you don't agree with it. You do not have that right. And yet, so many people are making so much noise, it's almost looking like this country is going to make that a right soon. That if something offends you, that thing is to be silenced, swept under the rug, put away, destroyed, whatever. Because God forbid an adult in the real world feel any kind of contentious feeling. Because, the world is supposed to be a happy, lovely place. And that's how it is, right? Except it's not. So it's stories like this, that drive me nuts because all you're doing is suppressing speech and further dividing political lines or political parties. You're creating more of a divide. And neither side is evil. Everybody wants peace and good stuff. But when you start throwing in these weird baseless accusations, when you start disrupting events, and like if they wanted to go outside with signs and protest, fine. But to go in the bookstore challenging the man to a fight, this started off as he said a racial slur. And I just read this article, and there is no evidence that he said a racial slur. It was one adult who threatened to fight him in a bookstore said he did it. This man, by his own conduct, shows that he's not necessarily a reliable source. So whether or not Sean Spicer said the word, we have no idea. but he's been accused of using this racial slur at a heated book signing event, and that's the story they're running with, not the idea that the left is doing everything and anything in their power to try to basically crash the ship into an iceberg. It's odd. It's odd. There's way too many layers to this. I'm all riled up. I thought we were just going to have a fun laugh at Sean Spicer. Nope. Now I'm yelling. Oh, and we're still just, and that was just U.S. news. We got world news. Let's see. A Palestinian teenager who slapped an Israeli soldier is released from prison. An Indonesian earthquake in a popular tourist area resulted in multiple deaths and 160 people injured. So hopefully those 160 people recover. Zimbabwe election. Mugabe turns on Mnangagwa in surprise pre-poll speech. So Zimbabwe's elections are getting weird again. And then let's see. Cambodia strongman extends 33-year rule in boycotted election. So Cambodia's still not having fair elections. There's a shocker. And then we got local news. I don't know why this is on the Google News. If I want local news, I'll go to the patch. Thank you very much. So that's what Google's given us, and then Reddit is just more horrifying. 5 dead, including gunmen in Texas nursing home shooting. A Florida cop did not rush to a shooting call. She said it didn't meet her standards. Police are looking at some confrontations of possible hate crime. CBC News, so I guess it's Canada. Louisiana woman abused, forced to eat her mother's ashes by 5 of her relatives, an indictment describes. Prince George's murder plot terrorist, Hussein Rashid, attacked in prison. Like a war zone, neighborhoods leveled, looting reported in huge California fire, death toll at 5. Rest in peace to those 5. Just a lot of odd. The hashtag #MeToo movement has made its way to Vatican City. That's going to be interesting here. Pennsylvania clergy sex abuse report identifies over 300 predator priests. And that's Pennsylvania clergy. 300 predator priests. Isn't that kind of an odd thing? I'm not trying to step on anybody's toes. I was raised Catholic. I've drifted from it to an extent, more towards kind of a Buddhist sort of a thing. As you could tell by my calm demeanor that I lean towards Buddhism. But there's just something really odd about clergy. And I'm not saying it's all clergy. That's definitely a group of people that have fallen prey to the old a few bad apples spoil the bunch thing. I would bet that most clergy are not sexual abusers. But there is a disproportionate amount that are in that field compared to other fields, which is just really weird. I don't know what the cause of that is. If there's some kind of a person's psychology that is prone to abuse is also drawn to this particular thing. Maybe because it is almost an instantaneous rise to a level of reverence and power. Like when you become a priest, you go to school, you become the priest, and the priest is pretty much one of the lower rungs on the Christian totem pole, and yet you're seen as like a reverential figure in whatever community you're in. You're given a level of power that you wouldn't have had before you did, I believe it's called seminary school. So maybe that's what it is. Maybe the same mindset that's predatory is also a mindset that seeks out a powerful position, and that's why they're like that. And again, I'm not saying it's all priests or all clergy. I personally believe most do not engage in this kind of behavior. When it comes to most groups, when any group is accused of like one kind of particularly heinous sort of a thing, it doesn't mean everybody in the group. You know, it's the same with racial minorities, the stereotypes leveled at them, the stereotypes leveled at the police, and you know, now the church. So it is really odd how disproportionate the amount of do-gooders versus, I guess we could say, evildoers is in that particular field. That's really always been kind of a fascinating thing, and not fascinating as in sort of in a condoning way at all. Just fascinating to examine, like, why is that the way that is? But that's neither here nor there. I'm certainly not going to solve it here. I actually I think my theory about like the power structures is one that might hold some water. God, I got to get like somebody in here to bounce these ideas off of. It's just me saying something that might be total nonsense and not having anybody tell me otherwise. By the way, we do have a chat room on paulingpublicradio.org if you would like to leave a comment, perhaps engage in some kind of dialogue. Please be my guest. Join in the chat room there. Totally free. You don't need to log in. You don't need a username or any of that good stuff. Just get right in there. Type away to your anonymous heart's content. So let's continue going through here. Polar bear shot dead after attacking cruise ship guard. I'm going to guess the polar bear wasn't on the boat. So what was the cruise ship guard doing that got the polar bear to attack him? That's where I'm sort of at these days when it comes to human-animal interactions. I typically blame the human most of the time. Let's see, BBC.com. The guard suffered non-life-threatening head injuries and is in stable condition. He was assigned to protect tourists who had landed on Svalbard's northernmost island from the MS Bremen, which is operated by Hapag-Lloyd Cruises. The German cruise company said a second guard shot the bear in self-defense. I mean, sort of, but like, why are you in their home is my question. You know, it's like if you were to go into someone's yard and then you shot, and then the owner of the yard came out and said, hey, get out of my yard, and like took a swing at you, and then your friend shot them dead, they wouldn't say you're so brave and applaud you and go, oh, thank God you got that horrible attacker in his own yard. You know, that wouldn't be the reaction if this was humans. So the fact that it's just a bear, I don't know. I still feel like we're looking at this from the wrong way. They shouldn't have been near the bear or the bear's home just for the sake of tourism. We have aerial photographs now. We have something called Google Images. You know, I don't know. I'm sick of these safari things and these, like, let's go see the animals in their natural habitat. And then we end up killing the animal because they started acting up. That bugs me. So, I'm a little all over the place here, but that was to be expected. Let's play another song because I think I've been going here for quite some time. Let me see if I can find a good one. I got to start planning these better. Let's see. If anybody has any requests, please feel free to, I guess, submit them or just write them in the chat room, and I'll play whatever you want. I don't care that much. I'm not too picky. How about a little Johnny Cash? We played this. No, we're not going to play that. We're not going to play that. This, folks, is a show unraveling that you're listening to right now. Congratulations. You know what? Let's just take a complete gamble here. I have no idea who R.L. Burnside is, but this is a song called It's Bad You Know, or It's Bad You Know. I don't know. I don't know which one it is. So let's see how it sounds. If it's terrible, we'll turn it off. If it's good, we might still turn it off. Hard to say, but here it is. R.L. Burnside, It's Bad You Know. Yep, that's going off immediately. That was pretty terrible, and I apologize to everyone for having to hear that half a second of music. That was really not good. Let me see. I want a quick one. How about Waiting for the Sun by The Doors? That's okay. So here's The Doors, Waiting for the Sun. A little bit of The Doors, Waiting for the Sun. Great song. Great song. And speaking of musicians that OD'd, let's talk a little bit about Demi Lovato. So I'm getting kind of, and this is going to sound pretty harsh and not very sympathetic or empathetic. I don't know. I get the meanings of both of those words confused. I think they have very similar sentiments. So I hope you get my point. But I'm tired of everyone looking at this Demi Lovato heroin OD like it was some kind of a travesty. That's where I'm coming from with this. I don't personally care at all about this. And that's not just because, like, I'm not, like a fan of hers or anything like that, which I'm not. I'm not a fan of Demi Lovato's, but And that's nothing against her. It's just I don't care for that kind of music. But anytime I hear about like a drug overdose, like it's unfortunate, but it's not a tragedy necessarily. I mean, like she made the choices every step of the way. Like drug overdose, I look at the same way I look at any kind of complaining about obesity, I guess. It's you made all of the decisions that led to this outcome. So I don't feel particularly bad. Like with Demi Lovato. She chose to buy heroin, to cook up the heroin, to inject the heroin, and then she OD'd. All of those were her choices that got her to the OD. Even if it was an accidental OD. She, in her mind, knew that was a possibility, and she went ahead and did it anyways. So, somebody made some kind of meme about Demi Lovato, and they were forced to apologize, and it was PewDiePie again. God, that dude just cannot get out of his own way. YouTube star PewDiePie, he's some kind of, he might be Norwegian or something like that, but he has 64.5 million subscribers on YouTube and has been in trouble for a lot of things, typically pretty racially insensitive things on YouTube, and, he's been penalized for a number of things. He's dumb, not as dumb as that Logan Paul kid who went into the suicide forest and then broadcast, like, a dead body on his YouTube channel. And then did like a really kind of like insincere, maudlin sort of apology. But PewDiePie basically, let's see, he mocked Lovato's reported drug overdose and subsequent hospitalization, showing the singer asking for money to buy a hamburger, but instead using it to buy drugs. Now, the most offensive part of that is it's not particularly funny. So I get that part of the outrage, but the real outrage is because it was like, okay, let's see. Outrage. This is from Deadline.com. So, outrage in the social media universe resulted in him taking this down. He said, deleted meme. I didn't mean anything with it, and I didn't fully know about the situation. I realize now it was insensitive. Sorry. There's absolutely no reason to be sorry about that, other than for doing an unfunny joke. That's the apology. But, why? Why do we have to walk on eggshells with this? Demi Lovato made a decision. It went poorly for her, and she's still alive. We're not allowed to joke about this or look at it or speak honestly or openly about it. We have to say the thing that people want to hear. This kind of goes back to what I was talking about earlier with shutting out that kind of unpleasantness and just focusing on only what we want to hear. But I don't know, man. She made her decisions. And when you make a decision, you accept every consequence that could possibly happen. Just inherently, that's what happens. Because whether you think it's fair or not, you're going to receive one of the consequences. It's just how it works. That's causation. That's not a thing that changes. So yeah, she's agreed to enter rehab. Yeah, typically when people OD are brought to the hospital and then their people kind of tell them they have to go into rehab for image sake, that's usually the kind of treatment that's lasting. So I don't see this as the end of heroin for Demi Lovato. Personally, I don't see that happening. Really funny, her latest single, Sober, was released a month ago, in which she revealed that she had relapsed after several years of sobriety. Heroin has a weird relapse rate. It's something in the 90%. Of people who kick heroin relapse at least once. So, according to my sister, though, heroin was not her drug of choice. She was like a coke person, I guess. I don't know. And I'm also not saying that people should do these things, but she chose to do it. It went bad for her, and now we're all supposed to pretend that this is some kind of thing that we should all speak in hushed tones about and write insincere tweets about. No, and I don't like that PewDiePie. Of all the stupid, unlikable things that guy's done, this is not a big deal, I think. So, let's see, where is it? PewDiePie has run afoul of the rules several times in the past for racial and anti-Semitic remarks. He's apologized in both instances, claiming he was a, quote, idiot, and had taken intended jokes too far. Apologizing for jokes is always a really weird thing. And, I mean, I'm not a comedian, as you can tell from this pretty unfunny show I do. I hope not. I hope it's at least a little bit funny. That would be good. But I hear from just listening to other comedians talk about these issues because they deal with them a lot more than I do. I'm at a community radio station. Freedom of speech and having to apologize for things is not something that has yet entered my world. I'm sure it's coming soon. But, when the comedians talk about apologizing for jokes, it's weird. It's a slippery slope kind of thing. And also you have to just look at the nature of jokes. There is always a victim when it comes to a joke. Jokes always have victims. It's going to offend someone on some level. But that's the nature of jokes. So what are we supposed to do? Get rid of jokes because everyone doesn't want their feelings hurt? I don't know. It's a weird world that we live in now. And it's pretty unpleasant, I think, just the way things are going. Freedom of speech is the topic of today's show, I guess. Certainly drifted pretty far into that realm today. So, So I've only covered a couple of things here so far, and if you're wondering what here is, it's Pauling Public Radio, 103.7 WPWL. I'm Mike Berquist. You're listening to The Fringe, live 1 to 3 p.m. every Sunday. The Rush Studios, downtown Pauling, New York, all the good stuff. So, let's look at some dummies in the news, shall we? How about Papa John? We got an update on this colossal idiot. Let me pull this up, money.cnn.com. Papa John is suing Papa John's, so that's a fun headline right out the gate. John Schnatter, the ousted founder of pizza chain Papa John's, is suing his former company. In a lawsuit filed in Delaware Chancery Court on Thursday, Schnatter's lawyers say he is seeking to inspect company documents because of the unexplained and heavy-handed way in which the company has treated him since the publication of a story that falsely accused him of using a racial slur. Here's the fun part of that. He wasn't falsely accused of using a racial slur. He used the racial slur. So, Papa John's denied Schnatter's claims in a statement. The company said it was saddened and disappointed by the lawsuit, which it called needless and wasteful. Schnatter has admitted he said the N-word on a conference call with a marketing firm. That right there, him admitting that he used the racial slur, gets rid of the false accusations of using a racial slur. You can't say you were falsely accused of making a racial slur and then also admit to making the racial slur. It doesn't work like that, and I'm pretty sure that's not going to slip by the courts. The judge is not going to overlook that detail. So, he claimed that the firm asked if he was racist, and he used the N-word in describing how KFC's Colonel Sanders used to talk. So that's interesting. He was asked if he was racist, and instead did an impression of Colonel Sanders saying the N-word. So, to me, that's a resounding yes, Papa John is a bit racist. Especially if that's exactly how that situation went down. That's hilariously stupid. So, he also has since told the firm that he himself would never use that word, after admitting that he used the word. I don't understand what his argument is here, because he says he did it and then says he didn't. And he keeps doing that. So the company asked him to resign as chairman of the board, which he did, though he remains on the board as a director, and he owns 29% of the stock. So he says he regrets stepping away from the company. Well, you know what? That's what happens when you panic, when something happens and you will react from a 100% emotional place, and that emotion, a lot of the time, is fear. When something happens and your immediate thing is, I'm going to panic and get out of this by any means necessary, yeah, you're going to be left with regrets because of how you acted a little too hastily. That's what happens when you don't stop and think for a second. So, he's accused the board of not doing any investigation, which is interesting because what would they investigate? You claimed you used the word, and you've also claimed you didn't use the word. So, he also says the decision to remove him as chairman was based on rumor and innuendo. Again, the rumor came from you. So, according to a letter he sent to the board earlier this month. The board of directors recently approved a so-called poison pill provision, an extraordinary step aimed at preventing the former CEO from gaining more control of the company. Papa John's has also removed Schnatter from its commercials and marketing materials and kicked him out of office space at its headquarters. In the complaint filed Thursday, Schnatter alleges that the other members of the Papa John's board may have breached their fiduciary duties when they decided to sever certain business ties with him. Let's see. Either the purportedly independent directors acted without adequate information and breached their duty of care, or they planned this coup in advance, the complaint claims. Wouldn't it be complaint with a T? CNN, a major news network. Wouldn't that word have a T at the end of it? Mr. Schnatter is entitled to determine whether his fellow directors have been grossly negligent or are acting in bad faith or both. So the complaint states that Schnatter should be able to inspect the books and records at Papa John's, arguing he has unfettered rights to do so. So this is really dumb. He should really just cut his losses. I mean, if he made mistakes of that magnitude and the way he's trying to get out of it is by just making it worse, he probably should not be in charge of a large corporation. That doesn't seem like the kind of man that should be in charge of, I don't know. I wouldn't say anything because, but like to panic like that, I don't know. You know what? Actually, maybe Starbucks will take him on because they like to panic also and do stupid things. So, yeah, let's unite them. Let's get Starbucks selling cheap, awful pizza. And let's put a little more caffeine in Papa John. Just dumb. But these are the movers and shakers in the world you live in, folks. And if that does not annoy you, at least, then I don't know. I don't know what to say to you. But it should bother you. Let's see. I have something here written, NPR scooter thing. Oh, yeah, this is just npr.org. Scooters, sidewalk nuisances, or the future of local transportation. Here's a fun article published July 28th, 2018. I'm going to assume originally written in 2002 because when was the last time you saw a scooter on the sidewalk? Those things have been around for a while. These questions were asked then if there were nuisances of the sidewalks or if they were the future of local transportation, and everyone decided they didn't care about scooters anymore after maybe 2 years. So the fact that it must be a slow news day over at the NPR offices because, it's just, this is ridiculously stupid to write an article about if scooters are the future 17 years after we stopped caring about scooters. So that's also a dunce. Now, let's get to the real deal dunce of the week right now. I'm not going to be playing the theme anymore because of copyright infringement, pretty much. I haven't been given a cease and desist or anything like that, but if I'm going to start podcasting this, I'm going to have to cut the music out. And I can't have a music bed that I don't have the rights to underneath a bit I'm doing without having to cut that bit out completely. So I'd rather keep the bit and maybe get or hire a friend of mine or something to create a little dunce cap jingle for me so I could just play that without any kind of fear. So let's go. Oh my God, this is ridiculous. This is from petapixel.com. So here's your dunce of the week. Burger chain uses photojournalist's beheading image for advertisement. So the Washington, D.C. burger chain Z Burger is apologizing this week after it used a picture from photojournalist James Foley's beheading to promote its food. Let me just read that again so it can sink in. The Washington, D.C. burger chain Z Burger is apologizing this week after it used a picture from photojournalist James Foley's beheading to promote its food. Last Saturday, Z-Burger posted a tweet shown above with the words, "When you say you want a burger and someone says, okay, let's hit McDonald's." And underneath was a composite image of a burger next to an image of Foley from his 2014 execution video shortly before he was beheaded by ISIS. The caption reads, "You disgrace me." James Foley was an American photojournalist who was abducted in 2012 while covering the Syrian civil war. He was beheaded in 2014, becoming the first American citizen killed by ISIS, and the video of his murder made international headlines. Needless to say, people were enraged by Z-Burger's use of Foley's image in a burger ad. Z-Burger quickly took down the ad and tweeted an apology by owner Peter Tabibian. So let me read the message from, I'm going to call him Pete. This is Peter of Z-Burger. I am responsible for the day-to-day operations. Many of you know me personally. Has this man ever written a paragraph before? There are a lot of starts and stops here. An apology has been sent to some of you from a contracted marketing company over an unfortunate incident, a post in very poor taste that was not approved by me before being uploaded to our Twitter account. Which is interesting that he says that after he started this little apology with, I'm responsible for the day-to-day operations. So, and then the apology was sent out by a contracted marketing company, which, that's typically a very sincere way of handling these sorts of things. Let's get back to what he said now. The inappropriate and offensive photo post was removed as soon as I was made aware of it. I find it necessary to personally emphasize to our customers and friends that Z-Burger does not permit the use of offensive language, photographs, or video content on our Twitter page or in any media. Okay, me again, Mike Berquist commenting here. You don't need to personally emphasize that you don't permit the use of offensive language or video content on your Twitter page or media, because that's not the issue here. So to make it a broader issue than the specific thing that happened, again, reeks of insincerity, I think it is. All right, now that lunacy is done, let's get back to this. I have taken immediate steps to ensure that this never happens again, and our customers have my promise to ensure that established controls over the placement of amateur promotional posts on our Twitter page are more closely followed immediately. He continues, Z-Burger takes great pride in our diversity of employees, customer service, and our food offerings. We support the DMV in many ways and hope that our loyal customers can overlook an error in judgment by a contracted marketing agent who failed to direct planned, non-professional ad content to my attention before posting it. Please feel free to contact me directly at peter@zburger.com. Thank you. And then he puts the Z-Burger logo. Yeah, there's a good thing here. The first comment to this tweet he put out says, no apology to the Foley family. So that's really interesting. Z-Burger responded to that with, the apology we sent goes out to everyone involved, but especially the family. It was no one's intention to cause harm. So then somebody wrote to that, the road to hell is paved with the best of intentions. No excuses. As I said, a 5-year-old would know this is wrong. And then Z-Burger responded to that with another thing that says, Dear Z-Burger customers, as some of you may know, there was a tweet recently posted on our restaurant Twitter page that was offensive and in very bad taste. As the owner of Z-Burger, I wanted to personally reach out and state how this happened. Here we go. Here's throwing under the bus time from Peter Tabibian, owner of Z-Burger. I contracted with a small North Carolina company, Valor Media, a social media company that has been doing Z-Burger social media for the past few months. The company tweeted out a horrible, offensive tweet, which I did not see until it was posted. After I was alerted to this, I immediately took down the tweet. Since that time, Michael Valor, who heads up the Valor Company, took responsibility for this tweet, and I ended my relationship with his company. As I did hire Valor and I didn't supervise their tweets properly, I take responsibility for my lack of oversight, which caused this terrible thing to happen, and I totally understand the effect that this is having on the Foley family. I don't think you do. Back to him, though. I recently spoke with Mrs. Diane Foley, and she accepted my apology for this situation. I have also made a donation to the James W. Foley Legacy Foundation and will continue to do so in the future. Sincerely, Peter Tabibian. Now, nothing about these apologies seems genuine. It really does seem like it's just damage control right now. Just totally. But what they're doing is, in this, the day and age of social media being sort of the titan of, or the center of the universe is social media pretty much. It's very easy to sort of compare, contrast all of these different apologies that companies are always putting out and just seeing how what a template it is they're following to make an apology. There's no actual human emotion. There's no humanity at all in any of it. It's just, it wasn't our fault. It was that guy's fault in North Carolina. We're done with them. Please eat our burgers again. And then somebody says, oh, you didn't say anything about the family. Oh, well, of course we did. They're included when we said everyone. You know, we made a lot of blanket statements full of buzzwords, and that includes everyone. So, Z-Burger, you're a dunces of the week. I mean, it's just, I don't know, man. It defies logic that something like this could even happen. So, again, the market's going to sort this out. Personally, I don't think I would eat at Z-Burger. First of all, because I don't even know where Z-Burger is. Second of all, I think that the people running that place are dopes, and I don't want to give them my money anymore. So, yeah. So I feel like if everybody just does that, instead of demanding somebody's head or demanding that something be closed down or shut down or swept away into the abyss, instead of that, just stop eating there. Hit them in the wallet where it hurts. That's how you protest things. You go after the money. It doesn't, I mean, it's not rocket science. So, yeah. But the point being, there are dunces of the week. The burger chain, they used James Foley's beheading photo to try to sell hamburgers. I mean, if you said that out loud to another person, like, I have an idea, I'm going to make a little advertisement for the restaurant. It's going to be somebody who was tragically killed by a major terrorist organization. And it's going to be him in an orange jumpsuit right before he's beheaded. But we're going to smash McDonald's by doing that. That's a bizarre little diatribe to sort of spout out to another human being. So the fact that this exchanged hands multiple times before it was posted is astonishing. I hope I've used enough synonyms for amazing, astonishing, all of these things. Yeah. Oh, I'm all worked up here. Wow, the show's kind of flying by. Hopefully it's not dragging for everybody. I'm having a good time. I don't care. I don't even care. Let's take a quick break, and then I want to give you guys a couple of weird news stories. One of them is a follow-up to something that we talked about briefly a while ago about a certain New Jersey superintendent who is defecating on a school track. There is an update on that, and it is weird. So we'll get to that in a bit. For now, I want to play something good. Let's see. Oh, yeah, let's play Nick Cave and the Bad Seeds, maybe. You know what? No, I don't want to play a song that's like 10 minutes long. So let's play a song that's almost 3 minutes long. It's Townes Van Zandt. The song is Nothing. So we're going to play that, and then we're going to come back and talk about that superintendent and his weird little poop thing that he's been up to lately. So first, Townes Van Zandt, Nothing. Townes Van Zandt, Nothing. My God, the writing that he did in his life, phenomenal. Seriously, I mean, I would say that, not to sound like, I feel like anytime you bring up the word poetry, there's an air of pretension that is sort of projected onto the person using the phrase. Hopefully that's not the case here. But I do think Townes Van Zandt is probably one of the great poets of the 20th century. Even though musicians are not typically included in that category. Then again, Bob Dylan winning the Nobel Prize for Literature is maybe a step towards musicians kind of being a little more widely accepted as writers, if their writing is really, fantastic, which it is in the cases of both Bob Dylan and Townes Van Zandt. So thought I'd play a little Townes. Probably, he might be my all-time favorite musician. I'm not sure. He's tied for first. I know that much. Just a brilliant, brilliant guy. So let's get back to stuff. But he reminded me that I have a couple of podcasts that I've been playing around with in my head. I've got one of them more or less planned out. I just got to sit down and record it. And there's another one that I'm going to start doing that's in interview format. And I don't want to say too much about that right now. I'm just going to do it and then release it. My the other podcast is problematic, the one that I have pretty much planned out already, because I would have to tread very, very, very carefully when it comes to the materials used in it, because it's going to be pretty much entirely based on Disney. And Disney is creepy when it comes to their intellectual properties. They're real weird about it. And I'm not totally sure why that is, why they're so obsessed with keeping their stuff to themselves. But that's the way they are. And they are basically in charge of entertainment in the world. And that's probably never going to change without, I assume, some kind of armed rebellion, which, again, not condoning doing anything of the sort. But Disney is truly too big to fail. So I'm hesitant to start that particular podcast because of, the potential issues related to it. So the other one I might do sooner, and it's gonna have stuff to do with the local area and the interview format. It'll be good. So I got to sit down, hammer that out. Yeah. So let's get back to the show. We are going to talk about Disney in a little while, but first I want to talk about these weird news stories here. Let's talk about the New Jersey superintendent. Now, I have to sort of retroactively correct what I said. Last time I talked, wow, this guy looks like a serial killer. The last time I talked about this guy, I had said that he was pooping on his own school's track, which was, pooping on any track is bizarre behavior, but pooping on his own was a weird idea. Turns out he was not pooping on his own track. He was defecating daily on another school's track, which, you know what? I look at that just as sort of, that's just sort of competitive spirit, I think. Instead of having like that big school pride day, you go and you poop on the rival team's track. Hey, that's pretty good school spirit too. That is amazing, though, that he was able to get that done every day. So this is from FoxNews.com. New Jersey school superintendent who is accused of defecating daily on another high school's track resigned Thursday and plans to sue the police for $1 million. In an email and voicemail sent to staff, the Kenilworth School Board accepted the resignation of Thomas Tramaglini. I don't know how he says his name. 42. He's a 42-year-old man pooping on a school track every day. His morning constitutional was literally on a school's track. That's the behavior of a lunatic. So let's see. So basically they said it became clear his continued service became too much of a distraction at the school. So he's charged with public defecation, lewdness, and littering. Littering, that's my favorite part of that. Is it really littering? I feel like that's pretty biodegradable, right? So anyways, court hearing is pending. Authorities said surveillance video caught him in late April following an early morning run at the high school field. The police said they monitored the track to see who had been leaving human feces on the property daily, according to the report. Hey, maybe the pantsless guy who's out there every day. Do you really have to take a hard look at all that surveillance footage? You couldn't figure it out almost immediately? It was the man pooping. He was the one doing it. So basically, his lawyer, Matthew Adams, issued a statement saying that the superintendent's going to continue to fight the allegations and that his resignation should not be construed as an acknowledgement of guilt. Leaks, half-truths, and outright falsehoods about a good man with an exceptional record of public service are not a substitute for admissible evidence, Adams wrote, according to the Asbury Park Press, which called Tramaglini super pooper. There you go. That's some real journalism. Adams also said Tramaglini plans to sue Holmdel police over the mugshot taken after his arrest, claiming they should not have photographed him at police headquarters because the public defecation, lewdness, and litter charges were low-level municipal offenses. It's like getting photographed and fingerprinted for a speeding ticket, Adams previously told NewJersey.com. Yeah, except it's not, though. One of those things is much more prevalent in society than the other. I'll let you all decide which is which. But this dude, he's got a look in his eye like some really dark things are going on. So, let's see. He has filed a tort claim notice that lists potential damages of more than $1 million due to loss of income, harm to his reputation, emotional distress, and invasion of privacy. Well, it's not invasion of privacy if you're defecating in public. Yeah, that's not privacy. Emotional distress, you were the one that was committing this crime. You're not being dragged through the proverbial mud. No pun intended. Harm to your reputation, I mean, none of this is slander, or defamation. But the loss of income, if he's making anywhere close to $1 million being the superintendent of a school, when the illiteracy rate in the United States is still exists, let's just say that illiteracy still exists in the year 2018 in America, and the fact that these people are being paid exorbitant amounts of money has always bugged me. I've talked about this on a previous episode. You can find all my old shows on Mixcloud.com. If you can navigate that confusing website, look for The Fringe, look for Polling Public Radio. I don't know where it's going to be. But I've talked about how I think any teachers demanding more pay should really show evidence that they deserve that. And the amount of time spent in the job is not enough evidence. Show that you did something worthwhile to benefit the next generation, and you can have a raise. That's my opinion. So, but that's neither here nor there. Basically, this dude is, let's see. So his lawyer is now saying, it is our position that the photograph that has been widely disseminated was unlawfully taken and maliciously distributed. See, he's really harping on the idea that the mugshot is out there and that's harmful. The mugshot's not really the issue here. I'm tempted to quote The Big Lebowski, but again, the FCC's legacy is alive and well, so I won't. Neither Adams nor authorities have said why Tramaglini allegedly did what police claim. Holmdel officials did not immediately respond for comment, and Holmdel's around 40 miles east of Trenton for anybody, I guess, looking to take a vacation to the fabulous track that was once covered in human fecal matter. From a lunatic superintendent who claims that the biggest sort of travesty in this thing, the main issue here, is that his mugshot was taken. Yeah, again, the people that are at the tops of your power structures in society. If you're not annoyed that this is the quality of person that is running things, and it's much more prevalent than just these little stories that pop up, you should be upset. You should be really upset about that. And it makes you kind of reconsider our birthday boy for today, Alexis de Tocqueville, and some of his ideas about mediocrity. So, and if Alexis de Tocqueville ever said anything that was taken and, like, I want to be careful with this because a lot of people equate following a certain or liking a certain figure to being a part of any kind of subversive element that also likes that. Like, I've brought up Jordan Peterson a number of times, but if you like Jordan Peterson, you're typically lumped in with a large group of people that aren't necessarily there for the right reasons. It would be like if you liked the writings of Friedrich Nietzsche, and because of that, somebody said, oh, so you condone Nazism. The two things should not be equated. So me bringing up Alexis de Tocqueville and saying that his ideas are interesting, I don't know if if some kind of, any kind of group, whether it be militant or not, or just unpleasant or racist or anything, if any of those groups have taken what his writings were, bastardized them for their own cause, and spread them, I'm not aligning myself with that by mentioning him. I just want to make that very clear. as an individual, I find some of his ideas interesting. So I just want to make that perfectly clear, because that's another thing that's pretty out there. And one of the things, actually, this is a bit of a tangent, but Anthony Cumia of Opie and Anthony fame, who now has his own network, is one of the funniest, quickest people in radio. He's, I would say, maybe more talented than like a Howard Stern. He's he's a guy pretty much at the top of my field, which is why I kind of I've hold him in some sort of esteem. But he has said and done some things that are questionable at best. And I don't even know, why did I even bring this up? I don't even remember exactly. But I guess what I'm just trying to bring up the idea that liking his comedy does not mean you align yourself with all of everything that he said. And I would just want that to be clear with anything else I bring up, like the Alexis de Tocqueville stuff. Okay, now that large needless disclaimer has been said out loud, in the year of 2018, the year that, I don't know, freedom of speech has been dead for a long, long time. It probably never existed, actually. But forget all that. Let's get back into this. Here's a nice little piece of weird news from bbc.co.uk. Japan's, I don't know how to pronounce this, Iga City? I don't know. Quote, does not need ninjas, after it reported that it was hiring ninjas. So, in the world you're living in, a Japanese city has been forced to clarify it is not, in fact, recruiting ninjas, following reports that it was facing a shortage of skilled assassins. So, any people around my age that still do the Naruto run, I don't know why anybody would be compelled to do such a thing, especially in public. Sorry, but you don't get to be a ninja. Not yet. They're not ready for you. So, local officials in this city, which styles itself as the birthplace of ninjadom, has received a flood of applications from around the world. What would an application for ninja even look like? I hope there's something here. They said in a statement in Japanese that they were not officially hiring any, so please be careful. The mix-up apparently began with a report by a U.S. broadcaster. Well, that's a surprise that U.S. broadcasting managed to misrepresent something so completely that people started applying for ninja jobs in Japan. So July 16th, NPR reported in its The Indicator from Planet Money podcast that that this Japanese city was struggling to expand its ninja-based tourism strategy because of a labor shortage. They will build a second ninja museum, but they face a labor shortage, which also extends to ninjas, said journalist Sally Herships in the NPR podcast. There's a ninja shortage, or to be accurate, a ninja performer shortage. Ms. Herships also added that ninja performers in Japan could make anywhere between $23,000 and $85,000 a year, though she did not say that there were immediate vacancies for ninjas available. The NPR podcast fueled a frenzy of online reports, with many suggesting that the city was looking to hire ninjas at a salary of $85,000 a year. NPR later said that a summary of its podcast had been incorrectly stated, and that its story may have been misunderstood. I think it was completely misunderstood, honestly. NPR has posted a summary which said that the city is facing a serious problem. There aren't enough people training to be ninjas, not even for $85,000 a year. That was NPR's summary that they put out. Their summary of their own product misrepresented the product. This doesn't belong in weird news anymore. This belongs in stupid/enraging news, which is the category at the top. By the way, nice news is blank this week. So let's get back to this. After the story, or let's see, that characterization was incorrect, an NPR spokesman told the BBC. After the story was posted online, portions of the story may have been misconstrued on social media or abridged in other media outlets. Okay, but those reports led at least 115 ninja hopefuls from 23 countries to contact that Japanese city, or the officials in that Japanese city, inquiring about possible jobs. Most were questions about whether we were really hiring, but there were a few that begged us to employ them and tried to promote themselves, tourism strategy official Motoyoshi Shimai told Reuters news agency. Some had real confidence in their bodies and strength. The Japanese city has wasted no time in capitalizing on the confusion, turning it to its advantage. In its statement, it extolled the virtues of its splendid tourist attractions, including facilities about ninjas. Besides its first ninja museum, the central Japanese city also has several ninja costume rental shops and holds a yearly ninja festival where visitors can throw ninja stars and use blowguns, according to their tourism website. They are not officially hiring, but this is where ninjas originated, the city said in its statement. You can feel and experience their history throughout the city, so please visit us. Nice work, Japan, turning that to your favor. But boy, is NPR dumb. There are also another 4-letter word that starts with D and U. I'll give you a hint. The last 2 letters are the same. I'll just say it. Dull. Dull and dumb. I guess I'll never work there if this broadcast gets out, but why would I want to? So, actually, I wouldn't want to sever ties like that, but I do think that NPR podcast was monumentally stupid. So, there's that. Yeah, that'll be my official stance. NPR is fine. That podcast was stupid. Done and done. Also, inject a little personality into some of the broadcasts, NPR. I don't want to tell you how to do your jobs, but, you know. So, anyways, let's, we'll get into some of the Disney stuff and there's a couple of other, world news topics to do. We got about 15 minutes left. I've got Good, Bad, Ugly Science. Again, can't use the theme because it's going to be podcasted, and I do not have the rights to that song. Yeah, I'll investigate that at another time, but for now, it's just going to be me speaking. I also didn't talk about the wedding I was at last week, like at all. Originally I was going to speak at length about that wedding, but then I decided there's too many people's names. This really isn't the sort of place to tell stories from the wedding, I guess, on the air. Especially when it's just me in here. That doesn't really, that's not great. So I'm just not going to talk about the wedding. I will just say that it was a lovely wedding, and I will once again congratulate the new Mr. and Mrs. Cody. So congratulations, you guys. Fantastic wedding. Fantastic. We were all there for almost a week, I think. Thursday through Monday. Just a great, great time. And special thanks to the Cody parents for everything they did that weekend. Truly, truly one of the more generous things I've ever experienced before. Just a great, great time. So, here's what we'll do. We'll take a break, and then we'll jump into some businessy kind of things, because if there's anything, or if there's anybody you should be learning business from, it's me, a 2-time college dropout who rambles incoherently after he pours energy drink chemicals into his head. Alone in a room, and I don't think the air conditioning is on either. That's not helping. But let's find... Oh, where was this last week? Or 2 weeks ago when we did the General Tom Thumb thing. Just like Tom Thumb's Blues. It's a Bob Dylan song. You know, we'll play it right now. No, we won't. No, we won't. It's almost 6 minutes long. We'll do a very, very quick one. Let's do... Take Me Home, Country Roads. Why not? Little John Denver. Great song. Great song. It's one of those ones that gets a lot of airtime, but I don't mind it ever. I find it to be a treat every time it comes on. So here's John Denver, Take Me Home, Country Roads. Then we'll talk about some business stuff and wrap the show up. So, yeah, John Denver, Take Me Home, Country Roads. John Denver, Take Me Home, Country Roads. The Fringe, 103.7 WPWL, Polling Public Radio. I'm Mike Berquist. Yeah, we got about 10 minutes left of the show here. And if you're listening to this in podcast form, I'm doing the station IDs because this is a live radio show. And the podcast is just essentially a rebroadcast of the show. So I want to look at this, money.cnn.com. This was an article that jumped out at me maybe yesterday. I don't remember when I saw this. But in the UK, fake news report calls for tougher rules and fines for social media companies. So this is a really interesting idea. It says, a British parliamentary committee says the UK government should hold technology companies responsible and liable for harmful and illegal content on their platforms, and that misinformation and fake news is threatening democracy. Now, I don't fully understand. This isn't the fake news as we know it in America. Fake news is what Donald Trump calls different news organizations, CNN being pretty prominently featured when he talks about fake news. These are organizations that knowingly and willfully misrepresent factual information in order to fill their own political agendas. Now, CNN has a long storied history of altering, whether it be 911 calls, altering video footage of things, planting people in things, planting people to be interviewed at live events that will then say things that fit the agenda that they're going for. So CNN, they're fake news because they're literally not reporting the real news. And that's not all the time, but it's happened enough without consequence that it's concerning. And they're not the only ones that do it. They all do it. All these 24-hour news cycle channels and stations, all these things, they are all guilty of that. But this particular fake news is one that I still don't understand, and no one has been able to explain it to me. I don't think anybody's tried to explain it to me in all the times I've brought it up. If somebody posts something fake on social media, why is that the social media platform's fault? Now, I'm no great fan or champion of social media sites. I think most of them are cancerous to sort of American or just world, like society, just in general, society. I think it's been detrimental to interpersonal communications. I think it's creating it's creating generations of people who don't interact with other people, and it creates these little sociopaths. I think there's plenty of that. However, I don't think you can fault them for this. If a piece of false information is posted on Facebook, that's not Facebook's fault. If you fall for the fake information that's posted on Facebook and you don't do if somebody posts something false and you look at that and you go, okay, I believe that's true now because I saw it on Facebook. If you don't do the due diligence, get a second opinion from somewhere else. It's the internet. All the information's out there. You just have to take a minute to do a little digging. You shouldn't be fooled by fake news posts on Facebook. You just shouldn't. And if you're basing the way you live your life off of false Facebook posts that you refuse to investigate and just, take them at their word, and then you feel like you've been duped, yeah, you've been duped, and you probably shouldn't be allowed to vote. That's my take on it. But maybe I'm wrong. Maybe that's not what this fake news thing is. I don't know, but I don't understand how something posted online that's not true, which is most of the internet, is not true. How anybody could be at fault other than the person absorbing it and then not taking a moment to think. That person's at fault. I don't think anybody else is at fault. So it's very strange, especially when you throw the quote-unquote Russian interference into it. It makes no difference at all. It's still somebody posts something online, you see it, you believe it, and then you feel like they should get in trouble because you were stupid enough to believe it. It's a bizarre concept here. And the idea that the UK wants to now penalize social media companies for this is a bit much. If you want to penalize them for selling people's information after explicitly stating for years that they don't do that, penalize them for that, because that's a breach of a lot of different things. But these companies are taking big hits. Facebook and Twitter are definitely not in great shape. Particularly Twitter. Twitter shares have plunged as the user count has dropped. This is from BBC.com also. So basically, user numbers fell to 335 million in the second quarter of the year, down 1 million from the previous 3 months on Twitter. So Twitter shares have closed down more than 20% after the messaging platform reported a fall in active users. So Jack Dorsey, who runs Twitter, is a pretty notorious figure now. That's a name that you should know. Jack Dorsey is the Mark Zuckerberg of Twitter. Jack Dorsey is pretty unabashed liberal. He has been accused, and rightfully so, by conservatives on Twitter for pretty one-sidedness when it comes to rulings in terms of who should be banned and what should be allowed to be posted. A lot of people with left-leaning tendencies can say and do whatever they want on Twitter, but if somebody with a conservative agenda does the same thing, they're banned from Twitter. There is a real, what's it called? Double standard there. And it really is annoying a lot of people on Twitter. There's a lot of posts about this constantly. It's a pretty contentious place. Again, it's a fictional place. It's Twitter. Twitter's not real. It's a stupid thing. It's a website. It doesn't mean anything. But it gets pretty strange, pretty heated on Twitter. That's where you're going to find the vast majority of really hard political debate and a lot of uninformed stupidity all in one little melting pot of nonsense. That's what Twitter is. So the fact that a million users stopped using it in 3 months, that's a good sign that people are kind of waking up to what this thing really is. And this is sort of that was sort of like the prelude to what's happening now with something called shadow banning. And I don't know if anybody knows what shadow banning is. It's a relatively new term when it comes to Twitter, but apparently it's being called phony outrage over shadow banning. And it's people on the left saying that there is no shadow banning and people on the right saying that there is shadow banning. And basically what they're doing is Twitter is making it a lot harder to find quote-unquote low-quality content. It begs the question, who decides what low-quality content is? Who makes that decision? Because that's a very, very subjective term. And people are really only capable of subjectivity. You can hit a level of objectivity, but you're never going to fully achieve that without subjectivity. So to decide for other people what low-quality stuff is odd. And typically these low-quality things tend to be from people like James Woods or Anthony Cumia or even Jordan Peterson or what's that other guy's name who I don't know. I can't remember his name, but he's a divisive figure. And then you got other people like, and I don't necessarily see eye to eye with all these people, especially not Gavin McInnes or Milo Yiannopoulos, who are pretty controversial figures who are pretty far to the right. They're considered pretty alt-right figures, but they're being shadow banned, which is it's a weird thing because it comes to, again, say it with me, everyone, freedom of speech. So, but of course, Twitter is it's a publicly traded entity, and it's not mandatory for a human being to have a Twitter account. So, I mean, getting offended over what Twitter allows and doesn't allow shouldn't be that big a deal, but it is annoying when there's such an outrageous double standard happening and people are just content to say it doesn't exist because it's beneficial for them to exist, the shadow banning to exist, because that means the left is going to have a larger platform than the right in a major social media sort of sphere of influence, if you will. So Twitter shares starting to plunge. People are about ready, I think, to start to move away from Twitter, particularly conservatives. I don't know where they would go from here. I wouldn't be surprised if some kind of conservative group launched their own app just for conservative viewpoints. They've already taken steps towards that with CRTV, I believe it's called, which has been around for a little while, which is just a conservative television network. I don't know how you find it, where you go to subscribe to it. It might be internet only. I don't know. But that's where you'll find like Gavin McInnes, Eric Bolling. A lot of former Fox News personalities will be on there. Yeah. So these social media groups are taking a bit of a hit now, and rightfully so. Now, we didn't get to Disney, but basically all I wanted to say about Disney was they just made a $71 billion deal to take over, I want to say, either 20th Century Fox or Fox Searchlight. Let me see what it is from Reuters.com. It's 20th 21st Century Fox, which means Disney now has the X-Men and the Fantastic Four, which is what most people are focused on, and not the idea that Disney just has taken up a much larger chunk of that sort of the entertainment market, which brings us into sort of the antitrust laws, the Sherman Antitrust Act, all these different things, which are probably going to be heavily looked at in the wake of this approved deal, and whether or not the government signs off, which I'm sure they will because it's mostly Republican right now, which, it's not great when things like this happen. It's one of the things I disagree with Republicans on, is the deregulation of everything. They killed radio. Republicans killed radio when they deregulated it. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. Deregulating any kind of creative thing is... typically, it brings businesses in, and all of the ingenuity is sort of crushed so that more commercial things can be pumped out and more money can be printed. So I'm out of time, though. And one last piece of good news to leave you all on. The Necco factory is closed amid mysterious circumstances. Those mysterious circumstances, Necco is gross. So, yeah, that'll do it for the Fringe for this week. Thank you all for listening. I'll be back next week, maybe with a couple of special guests. I'm going to talk to them, try to hammer out some things. It's been a long time coming. 2 people I used to do radio with. That's a hint. See if we can get us all up here next Sunday. But for now, I must take my leave. This has been The Fringe, 103.7 WPWL Pauling Public Radio. I'm Mike Berquist, broadcasting to you live from downtown Pauling in the Rush Studios. Thank you. Peace.